If you're a graduate trying to break into credit risk, banking, or risk analytics, this video can literally save you months of confusion. I'm a credit risk analyst, and I can tell you 90% of credit risk decisions come down to just 3 formulas. So if you understand these 3 concepts, you'll understand how banks think about credit risk. So let's get into it. Credit risk is not about complicated maths. It's about quantifying uncertainty. Every loan boils down to one simple question: how much could we lose if this goes wrong? And to answer that, banks use 3 building blocks. And let's start with the first one and the most misunderstood: probability of default. So PD answers one simple question: how likely is it that this borrower will default? If I tell you a borrower has 2% PD, that means out of 100 similar borrowers, 2 are expected to default within the next year. And why does PD matter? Well, PD drives almost everything in credit risk: pricing, approvals, capital, and stress testing, just to name a few. The higher the PD, the lower the credit limit. But it's not about certainty. It's about the likelihood. Think of PD like weather forecasting. If there's a 10% chance of rain, it doesn't mean it will rain. It means the risk of rain exists. And so PD is the first concept banks use to create a model when it comes to assessments. Now, the next formula to be aware of is loss given default. LGD, from a formula perspective, equals percentage of exposure lost if the default occurs, and follows on from PD to answer the question: if the borrower does default, how bad is it going to be? Let's say a borrower defaults on a $100 loan. If the bank recovers $60 through means such as collateral or collections, the loss is only going to be $40. That means LGD equals 40%. And LGD matters because 2 borrowers can actually have the same PD, but wildly different risks. And so whilst the PD measures if the accident will happen, LGD measures how severe is the accident going to be. Mentioning this in your interview will make sure you grab their attention. But there's going to be one more concept that the interviewer is going to expect from you, and that's exposure at default. So EAD is going to be the outstanding amount at the time of default. It answers the third question of how much money is actually at risk here. For a simple loan, EAD might just be the outstanding balance at the time of default. But for credit cards or revolving facilities, which are very common in businesses, borrowers often end up drawing more right before the default. And that's why they model EAD instead of assuming today's balance is the loss. Understanding this matters because a borrower with a high PD and high LGD doesn't matter much if the exposure is going to be tiny. And that's why you have to include EAD in your understanding of credit risk to see where you should focus and what you should look at. An easy way to remember all of these 3 concepts combined is that the PD being the chance of a fire starting, the LGD measuring how hard it burns, and EAD showing you the size of the fire. Put these 3 together and you actually understand how banks measure risk. Expected loss equals PD times LGD times EAD. This one equation drives provisioning, pricing, and capital for any credit risk analyst. If you understand this, then you'll understand credit risk. And if you want to know what a credit risk analyst actually does on a day-to-day basis, then I'm going to leave a video where I made a life in my role as a credit risk analyst on a typical day. So go check that out, and I'll see you all in the next video.